The lake lay shrouded in an unnatural stillness. A mist hung low over the water, thick and white, like a burial shroud. It was a place of secrets, its depths uncharted and dark. Locals spoke of it in hushed tones, calling it Willow Creek, but they knew its true name, the Lake of Whispers. They told stories around crackling fires, stories of the woman in the water, a woman with a voice like silk and eyes like ice, a woman who lured unsuspecting souls to their doom. Her laughter, they said, was the last thing you ever heard. Even the bravest souls avoided the lake after dark. The air grew heavy with dread. Whispers seemed to emanate from the water, carried on the breeze, the whispers of the dead. The legend had been passed down for generations, a tale whispered from grandparent to grandchild, each telling adding a layer of fear. It spoke of a beautiful woman, heartbroken and betrayed. Driven to despair, she sought solace in the lake's embrace. She drowned, consumed by grief and rage. Her spirit never found peace. Now she roams the lake as a vengeful phantom. Her voice, a siren's call, draws men to their watery graves. Locals have seen the lights and heard the cries. Some dismiss it as superstition, but deep down, they know better. The night was still, the air heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth. The full moon cast an eerie glow upon the water, its surface shimmering like scattered diamonds. It was on nights like these that she emerged. Her voice, soft and ethereal, drifted across the water, a mournful melody that sent shivers down the spine. It was a song of longing and despair, of love lost and vengeance sought, a song that could pierce the soul, captivating the heart. She sang of love and loss, of betrayal and despair. Her voice, imbued with magic and sorrow, wove a tapestry of sound that ensnared the senses. It whispered of forgotten dreams and promised solace from the pain of the world. Men, drawn by her haunting melody, would find themselves at the water's edge. Their hearts ached with a nameless longing, their minds clouded by the sheer beauty of her song. They were lost in her music, their senses intoxicated, their steps leading them closer to the water's edge. A stranger arrived in the town one evening, his eyes reflecting the weariness of a long journey. He was a writer seeking inspiration in the solitude of the mountains. He had heard the tales, dismissed them as local folklore. He would soon learn the truth. The writer, captivated by the beauty of the lake, set up camp on its shores. He was drawn to the tranquility of the water, the stillness of the forest. He felt a strange sense of peace, a sense of belonging. As night fell, he sat by the fire, his notebook open. He was searching for a story, his mind blank. It was then that he heard it, a voice soft and haunting, carried on the night air. Curiosity piqued. He closed his notebook and rose to his feet. He had to find the source of that voice. He followed the sound, his feet moving silently over the soft earth. The trees around him seemed to close in, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The air grew colder, the scent of pine replaced by a cloying sweetness that made his head spin. The voice grew stronger, drawing him closer to the water's edge. It was a siren's call, hypnotic and alluring, promising solace and peace. He could resist no longer. The melody had woven its spell around him, his every step leading him closer to his doom. He reached the shore, his eyes searching the darkness. The moon, hidden behind a veil of clouds, offered little light. But then he saw her. A figure, pale and ethereal, standing knee-deep in the water. Her hair, long and dark, flowed around her like a silken shroud. Her skin, white as moonlight, seemed to shimmer in the darkness, but it was her eyes that held him captive. Large and luminous, they shone with an otherworldly light. He called out to her, his voice a mere whisper against the backdrop of the night. She turned, her gaze meeting his. Time seemed to stand still. The forest held its breath, the lake falling silent. He was mesmerized. Her beauty was otherworldly, ethereal, and haunting. Her eyes, pools of moonlight and shadow, held him captive. He felt a connection to her, a sense of longing he couldn't explain. She began to sing, her voice a mournful lament that echoed across the water. The melody spoke of heartbreak and betrayal, of a love lost too soon. It was a tale as old as time, yet her pain felt raw, visceral. He found himself drawn to her, his feet moving before he could stop them. He stepped into the water, the coldness a shock against his skin. He paid it no mind. He had to reach her. He had to ease her suffering. As he waded deeper, she began to speak, her voice a low murmur that sent chills down his spine. She told him of her life, of her love for a man who had promised her the world, a man who had broken his vows, shattering her heart into a million pieces. She had trusted him, loved him. With all her being, he had betrayed her trust. Casting her aside for another, driven to despair, she had sought solace in the lake's embrace. The water, cold and unforgiving, had welcomed her. She had found peace in death, a release from the pain. But her spirit, bound to the lake by her grief and rage, could not find rest. She was trapped, forced to relive her final moments for all eternity. Her only solace, she confessed, was to share her pain, to draw others into her embrace, to make them feel the depths of her despair. Only then, she believed, could she find release. He reached for her, his hand outstretched, his fingers brushing against hers. They were ice cold, sending a jolt through his body. He recoiled in shock, his eyes widening in realization. She was not of this world. A cold laugh echoed across the water, chilling him to the bone. The woman, her beauty replaced by a mask of rage, stood before him. Her eyes, once filled with sorrow, now blazed with a cold fire. "You will join me," she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "You will share my fate." Terror, primal and consuming, seized him. He tried to turn, to flee back to the safety of the shore, but it was too late. The water around him, once calm and serene, churned violently. She pulled him down, her grip unbreakable. He struggled against her grasp, his lungs screaming for air, but it was no use. The water closed over his head. dragging him down into the darkness. Her laughter, cold and cruel, followed him into the abyss. He was gone, another victim claimed by the lake's deadly siren. The next morning, his campsite stood deserted. The only sign of his presence, a notebook lying open on the ground. The pages, filled with his frantic scribbles, told a tale of horror and despair. A tale that ended abruptly, the last words scrawled in a shaky hand. She is real. The lake, calm and serene, gave no indication of the struggle that had taken place, but if one listened closely, they could hear it. A whisper on the wind, carried on the breeze. A single name repeated over and over, a name that would forever be etched in the annals of the lake's dark history.